Welcome to the Presbyterian Guy Show. Here we talk a little about life, theology, music, church polity, philosophy, and all things PCA. A show made by Presbyterians for Presbyterians. And all you Baptists who secretly wish you were Presbyterian. We hope you enjoy today's episode. Make sure you tell your mother, brother, father, and sister about us. Maybe even your probation officer. Stick around, stay tuned. We'll begin here in just a few. All right, welcome in everybody. Episode number 2 of the Presbyterian Guy Show. I'm your host, the Country Covenanter, the Presbyterian Guy, joined as always by a man who was predestined to join me, Jacob. Jacob, my fellow totally depraved but sovereignly saved vessel of mercy, how are you doing today?
I'm still depraved. How about you?
Same here, man, but I'm doing good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get this second episode going, man. I've been looking forward to this all month.
Me too, man. I have to tell you, if the number one question that I got since the first recording from people in our church as well as outside is, when's y'all's next episode? So I'm glad to be getting this under the way too. I'm trying to figure out ways to maybe get like 2 episodes a month out. I know we had talked about that, but we're going to try to shuffle some things around and figure out how I can try to get about 2 episodes a month. That way, you're not waiting too long, but not overdoing it at the same time because we're all busy as well with work and whatnot. But yeah, so. Episode number 2, we got a good episode lined up today. Before we get started, I have another providential mishap to share with you. I mean, it wouldn't be our show if I didn't have something to share story-wise. But before I share that, I also want to make it clear that it was brought to my attention on the first episode during the game segment that I cheated you out a point.
Oh, really?
Yes. My mother-in-law actually pointed out to it. So thank you, Miss Tammy, for that. And but, you know, man, math is hard. Right,
it's part of the reason why I'm a theologian.
Yeah, I'm a banjo picker. You know, I'm not a mathematician. And my favorite part of math class was whenever we closed the textbook. So, but you know, I need to call it out, make sure everybody knows. You know, I cheated you out a point, not purposely. I think it was question 6. You had said the answer and it was wrong, but then you changed it at the last minute. But in my mind, I'd already counted it wrong, so I just subconsciously counted it against you. But you was actually like 7-3, not 6-4, so you actually did better. So that's good.
Oh, thank goodness!
Yeah,
thank goodness. Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there. You know, not above. You know, admitting when I'm wrong. But the providential mishap for this episode, and you're gonna find this hilarious, I know. But let me preface with a warning. If you're a man with any amount of facial hair, do not, under any circumstances, try to multitask while using super glue, because it is a recipe for absolute unmitigated disaster.
Oh my goodness, what's happening?
So this past week, you know, I'm sitting at the kitchen table. I'm trying to fix a broken mug, and it happens to be my favorite mug, and it's got a picture of Calvin on it, and it's a delicate operation. The kids dropped it, and it broke, so the handle portion of it broke. And so I got the heavy-duty industrial strength super glue out, and as I apply a massive drop of glue to the handle, my phone rings. And I look down, and lo and behold, it's our clerk of session. And so as a good Presbyterian, when the clerk calls, you answer decently and in order. So I try to shoulder pin the phone, right, to my ear while I'm holding this glued mug handle in place, and I'm nodding along, listening to him. He's talking some business, you know, upcoming meetings and whatnot. And all of a sudden, I feel this sudden intense itch right in the middle of my beard, man. And without even thinking, I know you know where this is going. I take the thumb of my right hand and the one that was just wrangling that super glue nozzle, and I give my beard a deep, aggressive scratch. And don't think nothing else of it. I hang up the phone. 2 minutes later, I go to pull my hand away from my face, and my thumb is completely, seamlessly fused to my chin. So I'm not joking, man. I'm stuck to myself. I look in the mirror and I look at the guy who is perpetually locked in a deep theological meditation. And I'm just standing there. I'm pulling out my face. Realizing that if I was to rip my hand away, I'm going to lose half my jawline. And I'm in a predicament. So I didn't have any acetone, and the only choice I had, to be able to have enough time to get to church on time on Sunday morning, was to take a pair of tiny mustache scissors and carefully surgically extract my thumb from my own face. Now, I think I got away with it, but because I had to snip the glue out, I had this random, perfectly smooth bald patch right in the densest part of my beard. It looks like a crop circle. And my right there on my face. So my wife, God bless her, my sweet, kind, altogether lovely wife, stares directly at my chin for a solid 5 seconds and says, "Dang, babe, it looks like you got into a theological debate with a weed eater and lost." Oh, man, I love my bride. But the Calvin mug survived, and that's all that matters, and the beard will grow back. So when you see me Sunday, now you know what happened.
That is incredible. Wait, so did you say this all happened on a Sunday morning?
No. It happened during this week, but I'm saying in order for me to be able to have enough time to get to church this coming Sunday morning, I had to do what I had to do. Gotcha. Desperate time, desperate measures.
Well, but there was one way you could have avoided all this, right?
What's that?
Use duct tape.
Oh yeah. You're right about that. Duct tape. That would have probably sufficed good enough. But it's my favorite mug, man. So I had to make sure everything was kosher with that and try to fix it. But besides that, man, another good episode lineup today. We're going to be talking about the separation of church and state. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to what Jacob has in store for us. And if you're good, man, we'll go ahead and get into it.
Oh, we already established this, man. I'm totally depraved. I'm not good.
That is true. There is none good. No, not one.
No, not one. So we are looking at the First Amendment, separation of church and state, and really we're going to be looking at Christianity in the United States because, as you all know, this past month we celebrated the 250th anniversary of our nation. We see the birth of our nation as the greatest achievement in Western history, while the British see it as the greatest tax evasion scam in theirs. So looking at our nation, in our recent history, we've been asking the question, is the United States a Christian nation? And this is important for many reasons and, political reasons, social reasons and stuff like that. And it's a complicated topic to talk about because there's a lot of thought, philosophical thought, theological thought, and social issues are going on at the time of our founding that need to be looked at to understand what's going on and to answer this question. On the one hand, we can say, yes, we are a Christian nation. But on the other hand, we have to say that we are also a secular nation. And what I mean by this is we are Christian in culture. At the time of our founding, we have Christian ideals and virtues that are being promoted, and it's primarily a Christian nation. But we are also secular in the sense that our federal government was committed to not forcing a religious agenda on its people. And so we're going to be looking at today at the world of our founders and why they decided that this was the best idea for our country to keep these things separated. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson really explains this well in a letter that he's writing to. He's writing to the Dabberry Baptist Association from Connecticut, and this is in 1791, and they are 1801, and they're upset because the state government in Connecticut, their constitution doesn't have a separation of church and state clause, right?
Yeah.
And they're writing to Jefferson with this frustration, explaining how they feel committed to religious liberty, but their state government doesn't. And Jefferson responds by saying, believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, owes account to none other for his faith or worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which declare that their legislator should make no law respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building the wall of separation between church and state. So it's really in this letter that phrase separation of church and state really enters into our modern dialogue. It's an idea that kind of precedes, it comes before Jefferson, but he's the one that really coins it and makes it popular in our culture. Now, Jefferson's being a little bit sneaky here because, again, he's referencing the First Amendment, but he's added his own little twist by saying state, right? The First Amendment it states that it's again the federal government that needs to keep this separation, not the states. But Jefferson himself believed that this should be extended to the states, that this religious liberty should be extended to the states.
Yep.
So if we look at our First Amendment, it says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So that's the First Amendment, right? Again, it's Congress shall not establish, but Jefferson's added in his own idea here, saying that the states will not have an establishment. And we're going to get to this in a little bit, but we're going to see that the founders themselves had differing opinions about how religious liberty should be addressed in this nation. But before we do that, we really have to understand where this amendment is coming from, what the world of the founding fathers was like, but also the world before the founding fathers, the world that preceded the founding fathers. And at the heart of this amendment is essentially a vow, right? It's the government saying, we won't persecute you for what you believe, and it's asking us not to persecute each other for our differing beliefs. Again, if there's one word that they're trying to avoid here in this amendment, it's persecution. Right? They want everyone to treat each other fairly. They don't want everyone, killing each other or throwing each other in jail or taxing each other because they have different beliefs. They want
burning at the stake.
Right, no burning at the stake. They want their citizens to be able to debate different ideas and come to a conclusion of the truth in a civil manner. That's at the heart of this. So the world that the founders are coming out of is the medieval world. And during this period, the church and the government were constantly fighting each other. They were constantly at each other's throats. They were fighting over who was in control. So the church, on one hand, thought that they had the right to tell the kings what to do. While on the other hand, the kings thought that they had the right to tell the church what to do. And one of the earliest examples of this conflict is the investiture controversy in 1075 to 1122. And in this controversy, the question was being asked, who has the right to appoint bishops? Did the kings have the right to do this, or was it just the church? And the kings wanted to say that they had the right, but the church was saying, no. We have the right to do this, and only we have the right to do this. And from that time on, you have other controversies like this. But then in the 1500s, something comes along. Something changes, and it just kind of breaks up this controversy, and that's the Reformation. Mm-hmm. So when Luther came on the stage, he held the church accountable for what it believed. He looked at indulgences and he's saying, hey, look, these things we're calling indulgences, they're not biblical, and we have to hold ourselves accountable to Scripture. We have to submit ourselves to Scripture's authority. And he comes on and he says that, and of course this causes a lot of division in the church because the church doesn't want to relinquish its own authority and power. Mm-hmm. And eventually Luther is excommunicated, but we see that there are kings in Europe who take Luther's side, and they kind of advocate for Luther. and they become Reformed, they become Protestant. And while this doesn't stop the controversy, it does change it. So we go from the church and the government have quarreling with each other to now there's multiple denominations, multiple churches, and now the state is trying to exercise control over those multiple churches, right? They're trying to appoint their own churches and establish their own churches. So this is where we first get kind of establishment principles. You have countries saying we're going to be Lutherans, or you have countries saying we're going to be Anglican, they're going to be Anglican, or you have countries saying we're going to be Presbyterian or Puritans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this especially happens in England. So in jolly old England comes along a king named King Henry VIII. And at first, he's not very supportive of the Reformation. And if you're familiar with his story, he's trying to have a male heir. According to English law, he has to pass his crown off to a male heir. So his first wife doesn't give him a male heir. He seeks a divorce from her. The Catholic Church doesn't allow him to divorce her. So what does he do? Does he submit to Rome and
kiss the ring,
honor the wishes? No, instead what he does is he breaks away from it, right?
Yeah.
He establishes his own church. He establishes the Church of England.
Yep.
And what happens here is this awakens a period in England where you have Protestant monarchs being raised up, and then they're persecuting the Catholics, and then you have Catholic monarchs being raised up in England, and they persecute the Protestants.
Yeah.
And there's this constant fighting going on. We talk a lot about the Reformation, and I think that's kind of bypassed in in a lot of Protestant circles, is just how bloody the Reformation could be at times.
Yep.
There are wars going on, like you mentioned earlier, people being burned at the stake. There are some very ugly things going on during the Protestant Reformation.
Definitely showed the depravity of man.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But the great thing is, God's grace triumphed over it. And again, I think that the founding of our nation put a halt to this.
Yeah.
God really used it to put a halt to what was going on in Europe. So all this is happening, and to escape this persecution, you have the Pilgrims in the early 1600s flee to the Netherlands, where there's a little bit more liberal liberty, religious liberty.
Yeah.
And then when they feel like that religious liberty in the Netherlands is being taken away, they flee to the American colonies. So they escape the persecution by doing that. Meanwhile, during 1642 onward, there's the English Civil War. So this is a war between the Royalists. They're mainly Anglicans, and there are some Catholics who want to preserve the Church of England. And we're going to get a little into the political philosophy in another episode.
Yeah.
So, but for right now, we're just going to focus on what's going on religiously and historically. So they want to preserve the monarchy. They want to preserve the Church of England and the king's legal authority over the Church of England. But then there's the parliamentarians, right? These are Puritans, right? Puritans doesn't refer to the denomination. Puritans is kind of like an umbrella term for Protestants. So you have these Protestant groups who no longer want to have an established Church of England. They don't want to have the Church of England telling them how to worship or what to do. Instead, they either want to establish their own national church, or they don't want to have a national church altogether. Yeah. So among these groups are the Presbyterians and the Baptists. So the Presbyterians are the ones who want to establish a national Presbyterian church.
So
and they
based.
I know, so based, right? Wouldn't that be great?
So based.
Yeah. They want to establish that, and they want to, instead of having an Anglican polity, church government, they want to have a Presbyterian church government where, again, the elders are ruling and it's not bishops who are ruling.
Yeah. And
that's what's
for the listeners that don't know, as far as polity goes, that's just a fancy term for church government. And with Anglicans, it's more of Episcopalian style, like one man at the very top down. and as compared to us with Presbyterians, where all of our elders are on the same level.
Exactly.
So that's the difference there. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like, it makes sense that Anglicans who support a monarch want that because they believe in a more centralized government.
Yeah.
But Presbyterians, they want a more republican form of government. They want representation. Yep. And again, that's going to play into the revolution, because what's the revolution's motto? It's no taxation without representation.
Yep.
And in fact, King George, he calls the revolution a Presbyterian rebellion. Because he sees the revolution as a continuation of this English Civil War, of the conflict that's going on during it. Yeah. But it's also during the Civil War, 1642 to the 1652 period. It's during this period that we get the Westminster Assembly. This is where we get our confession. This is where we get our larger and shorter catechism. So it's during this political context that we get, kind of our foundational constitution for the Presbyterian denominations. Now, you also have the Independents, the Congregationalists, and the Baptists, who didn't want a national church whatsoever. So again, this conflict is going on, and this is happening in England. It's an Anglo-Saxon conflict. And the colonies in America are primarily Anglo-Saxon, but you do have Germans, you do have the French, you have the Dutch too in New York. And so you have this Anglo-Saxon controversy leaking into the colonies eventually. And this is a situation that the founding fathers inherited in the colonies. Is this very diverse landscape of European ethnicities and different European religions,
Yep.
Christian denominations. So they're looking back at this political religious mess that's going on in England, and they're wondering how they can prevent it from happening in their baby nation, in the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, during the earlier days of the colonies themselves are diverse places. They're very much operating as their own separate countries. They don't see each other as one individual unit. Instead, they're not really trading with each other. They're not really interacting with each other. They're all doing their own thing.
Yep.
And again, you have a diverse group of peoples, Germans, French, Anglo-Saxons, Dutch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then with them come a diverse opinions on how to run their colonies, but also this diversity extends to their religious views. So there's this book called The Glorious Revolution, and it's the Oxford History of the United States. It's part of the series. And I'm not going to read it all, but he kind of really goes into how diverse this landscape is. He says this: religion, especially after 1740, displayed similar contradictions. In 9 colonies, an established church, one that received public taxes, held forth. But the most fervent believers remained outside its doors with no intention of applying for admission. They followed the call of the Spirit and despised the formality and the rationalism. They called it sin in the established bodies. So again, and he's got to go on and talk about the Congregationalists and the Presbyterians and all that. But his point is that in the colonies, the conflict is over establishment churches or freedom of practicing Christianity however you want.
Yep.
And a lot of the colonies had establishment churches. In the New England, it was mainly Congregationalists. In the southern states, it was mainly Anglican. And then you have a bunch of other examples of this. I'm not going to go too into this, simply because, for the sake of time and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But again, there's a very religious diversity at this time in this period. And another thing that kind of contributes to this is something called the Immigration Law of 1740. So Parliament in 1740 passes the law where they're trying to encourage immigration from Protestant European countries to the American colonies. And so with this law, there are benefits. If you immigrate to the American colonies, say from Protestant Germany, Protestant Netherlands, Protestant France, the French Huguenots, I mean, then, and you stay there for 7 years, then you will become a national born subject of the king. So you become nationalized. You become, a subject of the English monarchy. And a lot of this was alluring because a lot of Europeans wanted to be British at some point in this period.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, right? What are they thinking? They're not going to want that
Yeah.
in another 100 years. They're going to want to break free. And actually, in our Constitution, you see a lot of that. You see this law kind of reflected when it comes to who can take office. Certain people, they have to be citizens of their state or citizens of the U.S. for a certain amount of years. I think it's 3 years is what the Constitution says. And I think Section 9. But then also when it comes to the president, it says that anyone who wants to be president has to be no person except a national born citizen or citizen of the United States. And so when you look at that wording, national born citizen or a citizen, it kind of makes you pause because when you think of citizen, you think that they're already national born.
Yeah.
But it's reflecting this law from 1740. That's what's happening. But again, with this law comes, again, an influx of religious diversity. So just a couple examples. Again, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, they're all Congregationalists. But then you have other colonies like New York, which is Dutch Reformed, Anglican, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Quakers, Baptists, Catholic, Jews. And then looking at Pennsylvania, Quakers, Presbyterians, Baptists, Lutherans, German Reformed, Moravians, Mennonites, Amish, Catholics, Anglicans. And then Virginia, Anglican, Baptist, Presbyterian, and it goes forth. So again, every colony has a variety of denominations, but in certain colonies, there's establishment churches, right? Yeah. So the Anglicans are saying, hey, you have to, what was that?
Yeah, no, I was agreeing.
Yeah. So they're saying, you have to either worship the way we worship or there are penalties. So you either have to pay taxes to our denomination or you can't hold office in our state.
Yep.
Or, that's what they do to religious dissenters. And so, again, this is the world that the founding fathers are coming out of and are living in.
Yep.
So they're looking at this and they're seeing the tension that it's causing the colonies, and they're wanting to avoid this. Now, it's also important to understand where the founding fathers are coming from, because each founding father is coming from one of these colonies with his own idea of what Christianity is and with his own idea of how the government should relate to, Christianity. So you have some founders saying, yeah, an establishment church would be great, while you have other founding fathers saying no. And this is causing, again, a problem within the Constitutional Convention because they're disagreeing. They each want their own agenda and they each want their own thing. And you have people like James Madison and George Mason who generally agree with Jefferson. So they both think that the First Amendment should be extended to the states, right? That the states shouldn't have an establishment religion.
Yep.
But you also have people like Patrick Henry who believes that only Christianity should be supported in the colonies. So he believed that in Virginia, the people should be taxed in order to support Christianity, but that the taxpayers can direct their money anywhere that they wanted. So, if they were Presbyterian, they could pay taxes to the Presbyterian church, or if they were Baptist, to the Baptist church, and so forth. But and again, a diverse idea of what's going on in the founding fathers' heads, right? They don't agree, but they do reach a consensus, and we see that consensus in the First Amendment. They're saying in the First Amendment, this is where we're going to start off. We're going to say that we as Congress, as the federal government, we're not going to force people to believe what we believe, we're going to support their religious liberty. This is what we're committed to.
Yeah.
And they thought this was an important principle to commit to because they thought it was essential to our nation's survival. They didn't want what was happening in Europe to happen in our new country. And because of this, despite their differences, they were willing to uphold that principle. And again, we see this reflected in our Constitution. We see this reflected in the First Amendment. But we also see this reflected at the end of the Constitution, where it says that there will be no religious test shall be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. So they're not going to force people to take religious exams in order to hold office, because this is what the establishment churches were doing.
Yeah.
And they decided this isn't right. We need to fix this before it gets out of hand. So again, the goal of this episode was to look at kind of the background for the First Amendment, looking at medieval Europe and what was going on there, but also looking at the colonies and what was happening within the colonies to understand why the founding fathers thought this was an important thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's what?
Go ahead.
Oh no, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, just I guess picking your brain, see if you would agree with this. Would you agree that when they was writing the Constitution and they had this thought and idea of religious liberty, that it was more so for a freedom, religious freedom in regards to Christianity itself?
That's a tough question because, again, the dominant religion at this time in the U.S. is Christianity.
Yeah.
There's a small Jewish population.
Yeah.
But you really do have churches within the Christian tradition. And again, this looking at the founding fathers, we can say, are the founding fathers Christians? And then on one end, yes, we can say, okay, these guys were certainly Christian, or some of the founding fathers were
some of them,
Christian.
Yeah, a lot of several of them was deists and stuff.
Right. And then on the other end, they, even going to think about the deists and theists, they would at least say that they like Christianity, or they themselves might see themselves as Christian, but we wouldn't say that they were, Christian in the Orthodox sense or something like that.
Yes.
And we're going to get to that when we look at the philosophy behind, the fathers and their religious liberty and the theology behind it. But ultimately, they thought it was important not to persecute anybody for their beliefs.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Treaty of Tripoli from 1792, they say that the American government, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you want to look it up, it's a Treaty of Tripoli, Article 11. They say that the American government was not founded in any sense in the Christian religion. And what they're saying isn't that we weren't influenced by Christian ideas or something, but what had happened at that period was we had gone to war with the Barbary states because they were supporting pirates who were raiding our merchant ships. And so we sent our Navy and our Marines in the 1790s to go fight them off. And when we won that war, there was the Treaty of Tripoli, and we said we didn't get into this war because y'all were Muslim. We got into this war because y'all were raiding our ships and stealing our booty. So you see that idea reflected that they, again, go back and read Article 11 in the Treaty of Tripoli. They're saying we respect your laws, we respect everything else about you, including your religion, even though you're Muslims. We just didn't like you stealing our ships. And so you see this even reflected in the U.S. is that they wanted to promote religious liberty, even if they didn't agree with the religion that, the people who were living in here. So, Buddhists, Muslims, and stuff like that. This is The United States, a Christian Nation by Justice David Brewer, and this was written in 1892. He says this, but in what sense can we be called a Christian nation? Not in the sense that Christianity is the established religion or that the people are in any manner compelled to support it. On the contrary, the Constitution specifically provides that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Neither is it Christian in the sense that all its citizens are either in fact or name Christians. On the contrary, all religions have free scope within our borders. So that's what he's saying, and that's the idea behind the U.S. is we're not going to persecute you because you disagree with us, as long as you don't persecute us. Is essentially what they're saying. Yeah, does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to get you to highlight that for our listeners.
I'm so glad you did.
Yeah. So I appreciate that.
This is why we work well together, right?
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Providentially, we providentially are paired together for this show for the enjoyment of those who listen.
I hope it's enjoyable. I would also call it luck, not providence. No, I'm just kidding.
Dollar in the luck jar.
Yeah, $1 in the luck jar. Yeah, it's a complicated issue, and we're seeing it again play out in our culture, because we feel the tension between becoming more of a secular nation, right? People are becoming more hostile towards Christianity, and this fundamentally goes against our founding value of religious freedom and religious liberty. Is that, hey, we're supposed to be able to talk about this, and you're not letting us talk about this. Instead, you're promoting what you want to promote. And so that's where the tension lies. And we're really seeing a reaction against, these secular forces going the other extreme, where now we're, I don't know if we should get into, we'll get into this later sometime, I think, but Christian nationalism is becoming a big thing. And on the one hand, right, you have people in this movement saying, hey, like, maybe we as Christians should be more involved in how we approach politics. But on the other hand, you have them saying we should elect Christian princes. And we're seeing this principle of establishmentarianism coming back, right? Mm-hmm. This idea of establishment churches coming back. And it makes sense why it's in, if you look at the groups that are promoting this idea, it makes sense why they're the ones promoting it, because it is happening in Presbyterian circles. It is happening in Baptist circles. And if you look back at the English Reformation, the English Civil War, you understand that these are the same groups that wanted a national church back then. And so what's happening is we're having a lot of young men in our seminaries reading the Westminster Confession for the first time, and they're seeing the divines wrestling with what's going on in their nation, and asking for a national church. And now they want that, and now these young men want that in the U.S. But they're forgetting why we committed to not having that in the U.S. in the first place. Yeah, because we didn't see it work in the UK. We didn't see it work in England. Instead, we saw it lead to war and internal conflict, both over in England, but also in the colonies. And that's why the Founding Fathers wanted to avoid this.
Yeah. And so, with me, like, personally, I would be A-OK with a National Presbyterian Church in America. I mean, that would be based. But,
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I speak tongue-in-cheek, but I do see the arguments between, like, almost as if there's a race with the Baptists and the Presbyterians to, who are on the Christian nationalist side of things, to get that established prince for the nation. And it's like, depending upon which one gets there first, how it's going to play out for the other is yet to be determined.
Right.
You got the Baptists joking about if the Presbyterians get it, they're afraid that we're going to be persecuting them for not baptizing their babies, and vice versa and all that. But at the end of the day, though, all joking aside, I think and believe that every Christian who, claims the name of Christ should want 100% a nation whose rulers enforce morality,
Oh yeah.
and including the Ten Commandments. Personally, I believe that every Christian should desire that. I think that's good. I think that's for the good of the nation that we do have rulers that honor and enforce morality. One of the reasons why I think the separation of church and state do work so good when done correctly is that you have the church whose primary focus is to preach the gospel, and so that the gospel can take effect into the people's hearts and change them, and inspire and that will to do good. And then on the opposite side, you have the state there to enforce those who decide not to do so, or what we would consider the evildoers. And when they work together like that, staying in their separate lanes, you have a good duo. But as you said, certainly here as of recent, it's the lines are getting blurred, so to speak.
Right.
There's a lot of contention between Christians and the non-religious and secular crowd, and man, even within Christianity itself, within the different denominations, there's a lot of strife, and we might not be burning each other at the stake or waterboarding people or drowning people, but there's still a lot of infighting going on, when we really need to be fighting against the culture of our time,
Right.
and
Right.
the apostasy and the decay that we're seeing in real time from our culture, because it's as well as I do, it's not good, and it's only getting worse, it seems.
Absolutely.
But that's where the church should come in and steady and be faithful to preach the gospel, and to encourage righteous living, and then the state to do its job and to enforce the law of the land and to punish the unrighteous. And so it's a lot can be said on the subject, but that's for me. I believe that we should desire as Christians to have a nation that honors God,
Right.
Regardless of what your denomination is. I believe we all can agree that a nation that enforces morality and enforces its laws for the good of the people is a good thing.
Yeah. If we go back to what the Baptists in Danbury were saying to Jefferson, they say this: our sentiments are uniformly on the side of religious liberty, that religion is at all times and places a matter between God and individuals, that no man ought to suffer in name, person, or effects on account of his religious opinions, that the legitimate power of civil government extends no further than to punish the man who works ill to his neighbor. But our constitution of government is not specific, is what they said. But again, their point is the government, like you were saying, the government's role is to defend its people from wickedness and from evil. So if you have one group persecuting another, or taking people unjustly to jail, unjustly suing people because they disagree, that type of thing happening, then it's the government's job to step in and saying, no, that's not what we're about.
Yep.
We're about religious liberty. We're about freedom of speech. They're allowed to, as long as no one's hurting each other, you're allowed to say what you need to say and believe what you need to believe. And like you said, the church's point is, again, to preach the gospel, right? And it's we're not doing this to try and, in a sense, redeem the culture. We're doing it in a sense because Christ redeems people through the preaching of the gospel.
Yep.
And when people are redeemed in Christ, then that has a rippling effect where then they're living righteous lives. Then they're voting in a way that pleases God and honors God.
Yep.
And I'm all for that. And again, the strong point to the Christian nationalism is that they want to encourage Christians to be involved in politics, to vote for
Yep.
representatives
Yep.
that will promote Christian laws and stuff. But they're doing this with the idea that we have to redeem the culture. And
Yep.
I think we have to remember that everything in this world has an expiration date. Everything in this world decays and dies. And again, we're called as Christians to be stewards, but we're laboring for another world. We're laboring for the new heavens and new earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm afraid when it comes to Christian nationalism. I'm afraid that people are losing sight. They're losing the plot in a sense.
Yep.
And if that kind of what you were saying is that there's this competition between Baptists and Presbyterians to elect their Christian princes, and how this is going to play out is that, first of all, we Presbyterians are not a large denomination.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us, but there's also a lot of infighting. The denominations that are bigger than us are probably, and I say this ironically, the non-denoms, which are a denomination, the Baptists, the Catholics, the Lutherans. There are bigger fish in the pond. So
Yeah.
if this is what's happening in our culture, then we're going to end up losing out. Now, granted, if these groups are truly preaching Christ, that's fine, right? It's
Yep.
perfect. But I think in the end, it's going to end up becoming a competition, and it's going to end up causing strife and bitterness and anger and hatred, and we're going to completely undo what the founders were trying to do
Yep.
when it comes to the First Amendment. So that's my stance on it. And again, I'm still thinking through all this. I've been thinking through this since the pandemic, and I still don't have it all figured out.
Yep.
And again, it's a complicated issue because, like we mentioned earlier, not all the founders were orthodox in their Christianity.
Yep.
Some of them were just Enlightenment philosophers, and we're going to get to that at another segment and talk about what that means. But they were men who were committed to Christian virtues in one way or another. They were influenced by them, and they promoted them. And I think if we want to get back to that in our culture, we have to understand what they were trying to do in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the encouraging thing is, again, these are men who were navigating a very diverse situation, right? They were very religious pluralistically, and they were struggling to navigate this. And we're struggling to navigate this today. But they left us, because they had to struggle with this in their time, they left us with the First Amendment. They left us with that anchor to weather the storm in.
Yeah.
But we have a greater anchor, right? We have a
Yes.
greater anchor, and that's Scripture, and that's the fact that we do have a Christian prince, and that's Christ.
Yep.
And he rules through his church, and one day he's got to come again. And when he comes again, he will bring his kingdom, the fulfillment of the kingdom.
And not just a prince, but a king.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So.
But yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Like I said, I gave my personal stance as of now. I'm still wading through and deciphering things for myself. But at the end of the day, like I said, I do desire a nation that honors God, enforces God's law, and I do believe that every Christian should desire that. Especially now that I have kids, it's a whole, the thought of what are they going to grow up, and experience that. That's in the back of my mind too. It's a touchy subject, especially when you got kids in the game as well.
For sure.
But yeah, that was good, man, which I didn't expect nothing less. But yeah, I appreciate you taking all the time to get all those thoughts together, man. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
No, that was pretty much it, man.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a hard thing to shift through. I was hoping to cover the philosophical aspect and theological aspects, but again, that's just gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
For another couple episodes.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, I'm gonna try to get it to where we can put out 2 episodes a month. Maybe 1 episode every 2 weeks. With Pastor Dave with one, and then Jacob with the other, or if they're able to both be there, then even more so great. But yeah, I appreciate you, like I said, man, taking the time to get all these thoughts together. And if it's good with you, I believe it's time to play our game today.
I'm all for this. Let's do it.
All right, let's go ahead and kick it off. Welcome, gentlemen. Your mission, should you choose to accept, is to crack a Presbyterian code using only 5 clues, given to you by a banjo-picking, redneck hillbilly. Yours truly.
Howdy, y'all.
Sound impossible? No. This is Presbyterian Impossible. All right. The name of the game, Presbyterian Impossible. Now, the way this game works, Jacob, is I'm going to give you 10 impossible subjects with 10 Presbyterian codes. For each one, I'm going to give you 5 single-word clues, read all at once, and then you get 1 guess at the end. Sound good?
Sound good.
All right, so let me give you an example of how it'll go. So if I was to say that the first code or subject is a person, and then I say smart, intelligent, bluegrass, handsome, musician, and then you would just say, hey, that sounds like the country covenanter, the Presbyterian guy. You would be correct. That makes sense?
That makes sense. It
All
feels
right.
like, is that like, have you ever played that board game Code Names?
I have not.
Okay. I'll explain that another time, but that's what this sounds like. So I'm all
Okay.
for this.
All right. Let's begin. Subject number 1 is a action. Liquid. Crying. Forehead. Covenant. Sprinkle.
Baptism?
Correct. Infant baptism. Okay. You did good. Oh, I forgot to ask. Do you want the thinking music with it, or are you good without it?
Hit me up with the thinking music.
Okay. All right. That way you don't, you have a little bit of time to think. All right. Now, subject number 2. This is a person. Now, I will admit, how old are you again?
31?
30. Okay, so you're right there with me. So you might get this. I had Pastor Dave in mind when I wrote this question down.
So,
Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be on this episode, but maybe you'll get it, okay? But subject number 2 is a person, okay?
All right.
Man. Ordained. Sneakers. Puppets. Cardigan.
What's his name? Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Not Rogers.
Nope. That was correct.
Oh, thank goodness.
All right, man. 2-0. Good deal. I'm not going to get or teach you out a point this time, okay? Good
not.
Lord willing. 2-0. Okay.
I'm listening, man. I'm listening more intently now.
All right. So 2-0, okay? All right. So now, subject number 3 is another person, okay?
Okay.
Guy, Scotland, beard, yelling, founder.
That's got to be John Knox.
Man, Jacob, you're killing me, man. I thought you would have got one wrong by now. Okay.
Honestly, I thought I was too, but here we are.
3-0. All right, you're doing good. You're doing really good. Now, subject number 4 is a garment. Black, academic, sleeve, pulpit, traditional?
Papal robes? No, I'm
What was
kidding.
that?
I said papal robes, but I'm just kidding about that. Geneva gown. Geneva gown.
Correct. Geneva gown. 4-0. All right.
I'm sorry. I gotta admit, I think the Catholics have us on drip. Let me tell you,
Yes.
I love their garments way more. Those giant pointy hats.
Yes.
I'm
The
kidding.
vestments that they wear.
The vestments,
Yeah. Yeah. And
different
now
colors.
Now you grew up Catholic, correct?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic.
Yeah. Okay. 10-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some Catholic buddies of mine. I've attended mass with them in the past. It's kind of, you go to church with me, I'll go to church with you sort of ordeal. Trying to convert them to Presbyterianism, but
Yeah, you're trying to convert them, and
yeah.
they're trying to convert you.
yeah. But I agree with you, man. The vestments that they have they're nice. I agree with that. But it's funny though. I'm gonna get back to the game here, but just a little quick side note: the clerical collars that they wear. Presbyterians invented that.
Really?
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
I did not know
Yes.
that. I always
Yes.
assumed it was their thing.
No, that was a Presbyterian thing, and
We
they
need to take
stole
that
it.
back. We need to
Yeah.
take that back.
So, but yeah, okay. So back to the game. 4-0. Subject number 5 is a theological concept. Idea. Before. Sovereignty. Chosen. Unconditional.
All right. I want to go with unconditional election, but I also want to say that super-lapsarian or infra-lapsarian thing. Man,
We was looking for predestination.
predestination.
Yep.
Mm.
So you're still
I'm gonna-
okay though, man. You're 4-1 now.
I'm gonna go back to seminary now.
No, you're still blowing through this,
Yeah,
man. 4-1. That's good. So, all right. Now, number 6, and it is another person. French, exiled, beard, institutes, sovereignty.
John Calvin.
John Calvin is correct. So now you are 5-1.
All right, let's
So-
go.
Yeah, you're doing really good this time, man. Very good.
Hey, I was doing great last time, but then
You
threw me
was.
off on taking
Yeah.
that point away.
You was. But I wanted to make
Reference
sure
was
that I
shattered.
clear that up. Oh, and by the way, you got to still think about what you want me to do for the coming episodes, because for winning that, we'll get to that on the next episode. If you win this one, which looks like you are, you'll just have to make it even that much more better, and then you could think of something. But
All right, I'll put
All
my
right.
thinking cap on.
okay, all right, 5-1. Question or subject number 7, and it is an event. Chicken, Tupperware, fellowship, Jello, casserole.
Oh, it's a potluck.
Oh,
Martha's potluck.
Martha's potluck. Oh, still bitter about that. Oh, cauliflower as mashed potato.
We're in the process of disciplining her for that. Don't worry.
Yes. Yes. Update. Sister Martha's being disciplined. Okay. So 6-1 now. Subject number 8 is a group. Room. Clipboards. Ruling. Local. Elders.
Room, clipboards, ruling elders.
Local.
Local. Ooh, session.
the session.
There we go.
Good job. 7-1. Man, you are doing so good this time.
You got me on the clipboard thing. I was like, clipboard? What?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing any clipboards at a session meeting.
Well, if they're Presbyterians that want to do stuff decently in order, they'll have some clipboards.
I guess our session doesn't want us to do things decently and in order.
Okay. All right. That is now 8-1. Okay. Subject number 9 is a document. Paper. English. Questions. Chief. End.
Westminster Short Catechism.
Correct. 9-1. I'm gonna have to make these harder next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. All right, now don't get too prideful. All right. Subject number 10 is a nickname. Label. Stiff. Unemotional. Elect. Ice.
Frozen Chosen. Or Ice.
Frozen Chosen. Oh, man. 9-1. You did phenomenal, Jacob.
Thank you.
So not only did you make for a great episode with all the things that you've talked about, but you just about aced Presbyterian Impossible. And you made it Presbyterian Impossible.
Thank you.
Well, brother, I think that does it for this episode.
All right.
And once again, I appreciate you taking the time to get all your thoughts together. And
same to you, brother. Thanks for everything you do.
Oh, yeah, man. And for our listeners, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all so much for listening to the first episode and for all the feedback and for subscribing. Just continue to share this as, we get more episodes under our belt. We just want to bring some good, clean humor to everybody while also giving some good, solid theology and just give people, something that they look forward to listening to. And that is our goal. So with that being said, if you have nothing else to say, Jacob, or nothing else to add, we bid everybody adieu.
Good night, everybody.
And that'll do it for today's show. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you had half as much fun as we did. If so, leave us a review, hit that subscribe button, and share us with somebody who could use some more solid theology in their life. Or maybe just a laugh. PresbyterianGuysShow@gmail.com is the email. Got any questions, comments, concern, hate mail, something you want us to touch on or talk about? Send us an email. Till then, see y'all later.